Today we are going to look at a very interesting game between Magnus Carlsen and Wang. This game was played in the year 2011. Here Magnus is having the white pieces and Wang the black pieces. Carlsen starts with the move pawn to e4. We have c6 by Wang. Pawn to d4, d5. So here we have the Caro-Kann defense. Pawn to e5. So we have the Caro-Kann advanced variation here. Black develops his bishop to f5, bishop f5. And as discussed here, white has several options here. White can play knight c3, white can go for bishop d3, knight f3. Everything is playable here. Even there are some interesting ideas like h4 in the game for white. White can even try the move h4 followed by g4, getting a powerful attack here towards black's king side. So h4 is also an interesting option after the move bishop to f5. However, Carlsen goes for the move bishop to e3 line, e6, knight b to d2, knight b to d7, now knight to f3, and now a precautionary move by Wang, bishop to g6, keeping that bishop in a beautiful square and also eyeing down towards the c2 diagonal and getting a really powerful position. Bishop to e2. So white is preparing to castle king side here. Knight from g to e7. And here white gets an amazing move here. Since the knight has now developed to e7 and it's blocking the diagonal of this queen, so this knight gets to attack this powerful bishop on g6 with the move knight to h4. Now there are a couple of options for black here. Black can try the move bishop e4, but it's kind of, you can actually exchange this powerful bishop here and you're just better here. h6, if you try something like that, then knight takes g6, so it's a powerful position again. So black must do something here to actively take part in the game here. So he decides to strike in the center with the move pawn to c5, striking in the center, also giving it a rook to, for his knight on d7 to develop to a nice square on c5 after some moves like rook c8 followed by knight c5. But this will get a really powerful game for black. So c3, solidifying the structure and giving an extra protection to the d4 pawn. Knight to c6, removing that knight from that diagonal and then giving a powerful attack to the knight on h4. So this knight on h4 is exposed right now. So white is happy to exchange this powerful bishop here of black. F takes g6 would be really bad here because like you're exposing your king side, right? Or if you take with the h pawn, h takes g6, at least you have the open rook file here in case if you want to attack some lonesome attack there. Knight to f3, rook to c8 by black, and now white goes for the king side castles. So white's king is pretty much safe here, and black may have some plans of bishop e7, bringing his queen out and attacking the white's king here. So first he tries to expand with the move pawn to a6. So he's planning to also expand on the queen side because his king side is kind of cramped. So he's actually planning to play b5 and gets all things going towards the queen side here. g3. This g3 is kind of precautionary move. Suppose like after this knight move somewhere, like black may have some chances of playing queen h4 and getting a really powerful attack here. Also, this also prepares some future h4 moves, so g3 is like a precautionary move here. Bishop to e7, developing that final bishop, and as discussed, white gets to play pawn to h4. So this also stops some immediate plans like g5 maybe in the future to get some counterplay here. And black goes with his counterplay with the move b5. His queen side counterplay is what he's saying me at. White challenges the queen side with the move pawn to a4. If you take on a4, then the queen and the rook are both attacking that pawn on a4, so this can be, and even that pawn on a6 will be vulnerable, so it's kind of bad for black. So that's not our idea. b4 is another option. However, there is another way of protecting the pawn on a6 and b5. Black plays the move queen to b6, defending his pawn on b5 and also giving extra protection to the pawn on a6. 8 takes b5, so your white has a rook on open a file here. 8 takes b5. And now how do you continue with white in this position actually? If you look at the position, okay, black is attacking towards white's king side and gaining a majority on the queen side, and white is planning for some small attack and going for a positional approach towards the black's king, which is kind of unsafe at the moment. Maybe if we castle king side here, it gets a little bit vulnerable. Knight g5 is threatening. So how does white continue his attack here? What is the move which white has to consider here, and how everything gets in order? There are many moves like you can play here. You can play rook to e1. You can play some moves like bishop to f4 is an option. Even c4 is an option, sacrificing a pawn and thereby getting some d5 ideas. So that's, even c4 could be some option in the future. However, Carlsen plays the superb move king to g2. So his plan is to bring his rook on f1 to this beautiful open h file and get some powerful moves like h5, h4, h5, h6 going in. So king to g2 is a really good move here. And black plays c4 himself, blocking all the squares of this bishop, and this bishop is kind of locked in the position. It can only move after this knight moves, and it's kind of preventing all attacks towards black's queen side. White develops its knight to g5, knight g5, and now black is not comfortable with this knight on g5. It's like kind of threatening his king side, so black must do something about that. So queen to d8 is played here. So again attacking this knight on g5, and so you have two attacks here. This queen and bishop is attacking the knight on g5. So how do you play here? Will you retreat? Not Carlsen. There are many beautiful moves here. However, Carlsen goes for this bishop to g4. This is threatening a lot of things. Knight e6 is threatened. Bishop e6 is an idea. So many. It's like a really tricky position here. So this knight and bishop combo is really powerful. So black decides to swap off this knight on g5. Bishop takes g5. Bishop takes g5. and queen c7. And as discussed, white goes with his plan, rook to h1, getting that open file. So his plan is to play h5, h6 and getting towards black's king on e8, which is kind of stuck at the moment. Knight to b6, h5, opening that rook's file on h1. And if black does not do anything, white just takes on g6 and it's kind of cramped in the position. This every line is getting opened here, so he took on h5, and there are two ways to recapture. Carlsen chose to recapture with his bishop. Bishop takes h5, and now a kind of inaccuracy by Wang. He plays a move knight to a4. Okay, it prevents some counterplays with the rook, so it's kind of blocking this rook on a1's diagonal. So it's also threatening the pawn on b2. So it's kind of a cringy move here. So knight to a4 is played, and here Carlsen plays a really spectacular move. Here white has a lot of options to play. He can go for the approach with the move queen to e2 is an idea, improving his position of the queen and planning to bring his other rook into the game. Queen to e2 is an idea. Bishop to g4 is another idea, looking at the both rooks, and when these rooks are exchanged, the queen comes and the king doesn't have much square left in the game. So that's also an idea. However, what is the best move in the position here? Carlsen actually finds the best move in the position and he plays an amazing move. I'll give you some time to find the best move in the position. You can take your time, you can pause the video for some time and try to find this beautiful move which Carlsen played. Ready? So Carlsen plays this beautiful bishop takes f7 check. Wait a minute. How does black recapture the bishop? What happens if you just takes queen takes f7? If you just play queen takes f7, this rook is hanging, rook on h8 is hanging, and you lose another piece of a full rook and you are under severe pressure here. So queen takes f7 is half a question. So black decides to capture with the king. King takes f7. So the king gets exposed here. Magnus gets the move queen to f3 check. King to g8. And Magnus finds the best move in the position. Rook takes h8 check. King takes h8 and bring the other rook into the game with the move rook to h1 check. If you see, white's all pieces are going towards the black king and it's like a horrendous attack here. It is really hard for black to play against this powerful attack which white has. King to g8, the only move. And now the powerful queen to h5, eyeing towards the h7 and h8 square, so getting a really powerful position. So it's really important to actually bring your rook into the game to give some protection towards the king with the move, some moves like rook f7 in the future. However, Carlsen plays this amazing move and immediately Wang resigned from the game. What is that move which Carlsen plays here and which made Wang resign here? Okay, if you look at the position, white is actually winning on the spot because like there are a lot of plays to play here. You have queen h8 check, queen h7 check, lot of options are playable. So, however, Carlsen goes for the super aggressive bishop to f6, a cleaner way to finish the game. Okay, so bishop to f6. Now, what are the options which black has? Black doesn't have much moves in the position actually. If he tries something odd here, if he goes for the pawn on b2, then he gets crushed with the move queen h8 check, king f7 followed by queen to g7, and after king moves you lose your queen on c7. So that's not a great idea which you want to play here. So that's knight takes b2 would be a blunder. So how would you play here as black? So another option, maybe if you're trying, if you're maybe looking for some other moves like queen to d7, queen to d7 may be an idea. However, white has this powerful attack with the move queen to g6, again harassing that pawn on g7, and black just have to defend here. He is not left with much play here. He is just defending the position actually. So queen g6, and again black's the only hope which he could play is giving up the rook and get some powerful in compensation, but it's not a great move to make. So it's kind of already black's position is like kind of crushed here. Even if you play some moves like rook takes f6, after e takes f6, you are just crushed here in the position after the rook comes to h7. So it's going to be a really powerful attack here. So if we try something like, again, like if you go for knight b2, like white gets this super powerful rook to h7. Rook to h7 is like completely winning here. So you have your bishop on f6 lined up on this g7 pawn. You have your rook, your queen on g6. Everything is going towards this king on g8. Black's position is just crushed here. He can try the move rook to f7, trying to guard this g7 pawn. It may seem he is little bit fine here. However, white has this final crushing blow here, queen to h5, and here black is left with no option. Whatever he plays, he gets checkmated. If he tries something like pawn to b4, then rook h8 is checkmate. If pawn to b4, then rook h8 is checkmate. If he goes something like pawn to g6, then again rook to h8 is checkmate. Again, anything is checkmate. So the only option is left with is g takes f6. After g takes f6, rook h8 check, king to g7, and the final move queen to h6 mate. So black gets completely crushed on the board. Wang Ho is just crushed by Carlsen here. What a spectacular game by Carlsen. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I wish all the best with your chess, and bye for now.